I am Kemika Long, the proud school leader of KIPP Climb Academy. I started my journey in KIPP in the summer of 2010 as a kindergarten teacher with KIPP Zenith Academy. That's the school you just saw on the video. And little did I know the adventures that would lie ahead. I want to thank KIPP Zenith's founding school leader, Tiffany Maple, for taking a chance in hiring me. Today, she continues to lead leaders as the deputy head of schools of KIPP Texas, Houston. I am a native Houstonian raised by my grandmother, Gloria Surgers, in the Sunnyside community. My grandmother is the reason I am who I am today. She is my best cheerleader and has pushed me to be the best educator I can be. And it's no surprise she's here with me today. Mama, will you please stand to be recognized? As an educator of 15 years, I have always aspired to create learning environments that provide pure love. As a school leader, KIPP has given me the autonomy to adapt my learning environments with love, empathy, and patience for all learners. I always state that I am living my dream as a school leader. I will never forget the words of Dana Sanders, Deputy Chief of Curriculum and Instruction. You are the CEO of your building. Those words have always rung true to the decisions as a school leader I make. I get to be the decision maker of children. How amazing is that? Being a school leader is my second favorite job. My first is being a mom. I lead a school my son Jace, who is in kindergarten, attends, and I do not take that lightly, and neither does he, because he knows that mom is always watching. Each morning, we walk into the building. I start my Bluetooth speaker with tunes and greet my students, we call climbers. As a decision maker, I cultivate real-world learning, exchange best practices, support students and families and teachers as lifelong learners. However, I wouldn't be where I am in front of you today as someone who gets to wake up every morning and do their favorite job if it wasn't for my educational journey that started at the Prairie View A&M University. PVU. The building where I took my courses in the Wilhelmina Delco building for educators. As undergraduates, we were blessed with excellent professors such as Dr. Clarissa Booker and Dr. Martha Lee Bailey. I learned the science of reading from Dr. Booker. Through the late Dr. Bailey, we were taught leadership, the art of making everything, including bulletin boards and everything around 5-step lesson plans. There are so many beautiful moments of clinical practice and ways to ensure you're building equitable schools for all. These are the lessons I've taken with me in the work I do every day. As you've heard tonight, Prairie View produces productive people. And it's a no-brainer that 2 of my former college classmates are now leading alongside me as assistant principals and bringing the Prairie View Panther experience in the day-to-day work. Yes, that's us at graduation. My foundation started at PV, and my continued development continues with KIPP. As a former Panther, I am proud and privileged to introduce Dr. Ruth Jay Simmons, president of Prairie View A&M University. Dr. Simmons is a trailblazer and an inspiration to all Black women. Simmons was the first African American to head a major college or university when she was appointed president of Smith College in 1995. The largest women's college in the United States. And in 2001, she was named president of Brown University, becoming the only African American thus far to lead an Ivy League university. She is the recipient of many honors, including a Fulbright Fellowship to France, the 2001 President's Award from the United Negro College Fund, the Fulbright Lifetime Achievement Medal, the 2004 Eleanor Roosevelt Vol-Kill Medal, the Foreign Policy of Association Medal, the Ellis Medal of Honor, and the Centennial Medal from Harvard University. I am honored to host her on stage for a fireside chat and allow her to challenge, encourage, and inspire us with her words of wisdom. But before I do, I'd like to call to the stage my buddy, my son, Jace, to help me introduce the incredible champion of education.
Without further ado,
Please join us in welcoming
Dr. Ruth Jay Simmons.
to the stage.
Can you keep the mic up?
Dr. Simmons, if you will, please join us on stage for a fireside chat. Hello, Dr. Simmons. It is an honor to be able to sit here with you. As a Black woman, I am tremendously, honorably sitting here to learn so much more about you and your education, your experiences. I could only aspire to do half of what you've done in the rest of my career.
Thank you, but you're doing what now? I've decided I need to be in a KIPP school. Really. It's very clear that's where the action is. So you're doing the work that is noble and really thrilling to see these young people and what they're accomplishing. Congratulations to everybody who's involved in this endeavor, because what could be better than helping our children? Nothing.
Thank you, thank you. And as a PV Panther, I am truly feeling, just like Joanna, that this is a full circle moment to be able to interview Prairie View A&M's president.
Thank you.
Tell us, how are you?
I'm great. You know, so many memories flood in at a moment like this. I grew up here in Houston, right over in Fifth Ward. And as part of a community without many means, frankly. And somehow I found my way to schools where teachers intervened in my life. And there is no way when you're 6 years old, 7 years old, that you can anticipate what your life is going to be like. And so I didn't know I was going to become an Ivy League president. I didn't know I was going to meet heads of state. I didn't know that I was going to have the life that I was going to have. And I couldn't imagine it, of course. But my teachers could imagine for me. So the work that you do, imagining for your children what they can do and what they can become, there's nothing better than that to me. So to be back in Houston and to see the work that's going on here, the people who are supporting education, I am so proud of this city and so proud of the love that people share with these children. It's great to be back here in Texas.
Wow. That's beautiful to hear as another Houstonian myself. I have a couple questions, if you will.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about your educational journey. Where has it led you today? And can you tell us about a teacher you will never forget and why?
Oh, there have been so many. Well, first of all, context. I started life on a farm in Great Plains, Texas. I'm the youngest of 12 children, and my family basically were working on this farm, as we call it, sharecroppers. And so my educational journey started out walking into a classroom in Great Plains, Texas, from the farm, and experiencing a teacher like none I'd ever seen. And I can only tell you that it was her voice, it was her manner, it was the way that she welcomed us poor farm kids and made us feel as if we were the most important people in the world. That was my first experience of school, but I knew something magical was taking place there, because this woman who didn't know me thought that I was worth something. And she gave me opportunities to learn. And from that moment on, I thought there was no place else I wanted to be but in a learning environment, because if it was that great, that's where I had to be. So I finished my high school here in Houston at Wheatley High School. Wheatley is, it's the best. I don't know, people talk about Yates and all those places, but it's really Wheatley. And somehow my teacher said, Ruth, you could go to college. Well, I thought it was ridiculous because, we didn't go to college. People told us we were not intelligent enough, that we certainly didn't have the means to go to college. But this teacher was absolutely persuaded of it, and so she contacted her alma mater and asked them to give me a scholarship. And they did. Wow. But it's more than that, really. Her name was Vernell Lilly. She was a drama teacher. She taught English and debate. But she did more than that, because my mother died when I was 15, and I was a lost child at that point. And my teachers at Wheatley stepped in and started parenting me. And I didn't realize what they were doing at the time. I knew I was lost, but they supported me. They took me to their homes. They took me on trips to experience cultural events. They did everything. And then finally, this final act of sending me off to college and insisting that I go. And one day, one of my teachers, not Mrs. Lilly, another teacher said, Ruth, I wonder if you could come over to my house and help me out with some chores. And I said yes, and I went to her house. But of course, there were no chores. And what she did, she was the best dressed teacher at Wheatley, bar none. She took me into her closet, and she took the clothes out of her closet and packed a bag for me to go to college, because she knew I didn't have money to buy clothes for college. And when I look at my yearbook picture and see what I'm wearing, all of that comes flooding back to me, this teacher who gave me her clothes so that I would have something. And they did more than that. They sent me money when I was in college. So how do you explain that, and how do you repay it? So that's what I worry about all the time. How do I repay that in terms of the shape that it gave to my life, to my children's lives? There is no way to repay it. The way that I think about it is what I do at Prairie View is just a token of what has been given to me. But it is wonderful to see young people today have the same kind of opportunities, and that's what I'm committed to doing.
Wow. That's such a moving story, and thank you so much for sharing. It reminds me so much of some of our KIPP teachers and the things that they go above and beyond to do to ensure that students are well taken care of and set up for success, not even before they go to college, but also during college.
Yes.
That's a beautiful story. When we know from the experience of KIPPsters that we thrive at college, Prairie View nourishes the foundation that we started KIPP, where we focus both on joyful and academically excellent education, where we strongly believe on the act of pushing our students to discover themselves, their passion, and to learn how to create and build a community with one another. What are the things that you are doing that are happening at Prairie View to continue to support students as a whole?
Well, one of the things that was most valuable to me when I was growing up here is my teachers sought to round out my experience. So I grew up on Sumter Street. There was a kind of a juke joint at one end of the street. We didn't really have much to amuse us, but they made sure that we got to museums. They made sure that we saw places that we otherwise would not have seen, because of course Houston was still segregated and there were many places that we simply couldn't go. And so they took it upon themselves to broaden our horizon. And I kind of laugh at that today because honestly, the things that helped me most in some ways were the extras that they gave me. And so I was sitting, I remember thinking once I was serving on the board of Goldman Sachs, and we went to France, and I was meeting with the president of France, and I was thinking, yeah, that trip that I took when I was in high school, and every experience that I have, it rushes back to me, the broader experiences. So that's what we try to do for our students. Yes, the academic rigor is important. Yes, they have to be well prepared for their careers, but more than that, so many of them have not had that broader experience. Last week, I took a group of students to the Museum of Fine Arts to see the Obama portraits. And it was a wonderful thing because Gary Tintereau, the head of the museum, came to the museum on a Saturday morning to give them a lecture about art. And I know that's an experience they will never forget. And they also don't know at their age that one day they'll be in some kind of meeting and suddenly they will take that experience from that museum and it will benefit them in some very concrete way. So we try to provide internships to prepare students well for the careers that they're going to go into. And we've been very fortunate. We have corporations that have been so generous to us in forming internships. Shell, Bank of America, so many corporations are now at Prairie View working daily to try to give our students the best possible experience. So we also want them to be well-rounded in terms of the arts. So we recently created a writing program. I give my students a hard time. You're lucky you're not there today because they're always texting, and they are doing shorthand for everything, right? And if you send them something they want to say yes, they just send you a thumbs up, right? Now we know that this is very au courant, and people like Jack Dorsey, head of Twitter and Square. If you write him, this is what you'll get back from him. So I know it's in vogue to do that. But ever the school marm, when my students do that to me, I lecture them about being able to write a full sentence. So they have to be able to write. And we're not yet reduced to symbols and abbreviations, okay? And so it's going to be a big shock to them when they go into the world and suddenly they have to write a memo. And, their boss is not going to appreciate getting a memo with all of that, whatever that is, those emoticons on it. And so the other thing, and I also, we embrace our students, we love them, and we can be parental toward them. And so I give myself full permission to be as a parent to them. And so if a young man comes into my office and I go out to greet him and he remains in his seat, I tell him to get up. And, honestly, I think they laugh at me, behind my back. But anyway, because I'm the grandmother who's always telling them what they should be doing. But somehow, I hope that what happens for them is what happened for me, and that is somewhere embedded in the experience they have, they'll one day meet a head of state and they will actually know what to do. And so it doesn't matter that they don't recognize it right away, don't you think? Eventually, it will come back to them. We just need to expose them to as much as we can.
Well, Dr. Simmons, I am glad to know that Prairie View hasn't changed.
No.
Because my experience at Prairie View is very similar, where I definitely felt mothered. I felt comforted. When something wasn't going right, Dr. Bailey would tell us we had to wear pantyhose to class. Didn't we?
Okay.
And so I took that into the classroom as a teacher. So that makes me feel really good that that's a tradition that is still there at our campus.
Yeah, it is definitely. We talk to them about how they dress, how they talk, everything. Nothing's off limits in terms of what we say to our students. I also give them this advice, so often when students are in college and when they're advancing, they want to be around the people who just tell them pretty things all the time. And I really want my students to be able to accept criticism because you can only grow when people tell you the truth about what you're doing. And so in the extreme, I say to them, if you're in a class where your teacher is telling you how wonderful you are, drop that class and go find a curmudgeon who is going to tell you every day what you need to do to improve. Because I was very lucky. I was going along doing fairly well, and my boss, one day, I brought him some work, and he said, "Ruth, this is the worst thing I've ever seen." And I went back to my office, and I put my head on my desk, and I cried like a baby, and then I got up and fixed it. And that was, I think, one of the most important experiences in my life, because from that experience, working with him, who told me the truth about what I needed to do, I went to a presidency. So I think it's very important that we love our students, but also tell them what they need to do to improve.
That's right. For those who don't work in the education field, but may work in business or engineering, many of the people in this room today, what can they do to best support public education?
Care. As a country, as a people, we must be judged by what we're able to do to take care of the smallest and the least. I just feel that sometimes people are not as focused on education as they need to be. but that's our number one obligation, actually. It isn't to make money, although money's good. You know, after all, I've been a Goldman Sachs board member, so I like money. But that's not the point. The point is we care first about the future we are building together. And there is no way to build a future together without these dear children that we must care for. That's number one. And number two, nobody is smart enough to know who is going to turn out to be great in their lives, who will produce the greatest results. Nobody knows that. And so it could be the child who is going to a school that is not going to be able to develop them to the fullest extent, okay? If you go to the house I lived in on Sumter, it's still standing there, barely, but standing there today, you would not look at that house and say, oh, there's the president of Brown University. You wouldn't say that. And so I always have to alert my corporate friends to the fact that you don't have the power to predict that. So you go and do what you need to do, and that is to embrace these children, do what you can for the schools, and help afford opportunities for children to do their best, to learn their best, to have access to the things that they can do at the top of their ability, not just to survive, but at the top of their ability, because God knows I have been surprised in my life by what people have been able to do. I was walking down the street one day, and this young man called out to me and said, this was when I was president of Brown, President Simmons, and I crossed the street, and he said, I really am here at Brown. I would love to do engineering, but I'm not going to be able to do engineering because I don't have the prerequisites. He had gone to a high school that didn't offer calculus. He said, what can I do? And there was a faculty member in math who tutored him and brought him up to the level where he could do engineering, that one student. So that's what it's about. That's what this life is about. It's about putting ourselves out there to do what we can for others, particularly for young people, because at the end of the day, to know that you have done something that helps someone rise to their full potential. Maybe there are things better than that, but I've never seen it.
Speaking of your time at Brown, let's talk a little bit about some of those titles you hold. You hold the first African-American woman to head a major college when appointed president of Smith College in 1995. In 2001, you were named president of Brown University, becoming the only African-American thus far to lead an Ivy League university. Please share with us, what is the key to being a good leader and opening doors of opportunity for women and men of color?
Well, all of that was quite a surprise to me. Actually, I was not headed for those opportunities, I would say. I thought small. I thought about my family circumstances, and I thought, those people at Brown and Harvard and Princeton, they're not like me, okay? And what if they knew where I came from? Because they are cloaked in a lifestyle and in a background that is radically different from who I am and where I came from. And I didn't think anybody would accept me as I am. Because the one thing I've always remained faithful to was who I am. I never wanted to change that. I never wanted to abandon the sense of having grown up here, having experienced segregation and all that I experienced here, having gone to these wonderful schools where teachers cared, having a wonderful family. I didn't want to be any different from that, and so I didn't want to sacrifice that just to be president of an Ivy League university. So when they came to me, I said, I declined. I said, I think you don't know who I am, and that's the reason you're inviting me to be president. And so I spent some time talking with them about who I was and what I thought I stood for. And I asked them if they were prepared for me to remain who I was. And then they, lied and said, yes, they were. I'm joking. I mean, no, I'm joking. I'm joking. But in truth, I have a book coming out in February that tells the story of my growing up, because I always thought they knew me, but then they didn't know me because they didn't know poverty. They didn't know the circumstances of children who grew up the way that I grew up. They thought they did, but they really didn't. And so I think the most important thing I say to my students that you must do is you must find out who you are and what you value, and you must hold on to that. Because to walk through this world with any sense of pride and self-confidence, you have to first know who you are, and you have to be prepared to defend that. And so I tried to defend that all the way through my career, and because I was trying to defend that, I thought nobody would ever want me to be a leader. And I was dead wrong, because here's what I didn't understand. I didn't understand that what people sought in leadership was that very uniqueness, that very authenticity. That's what they wanted more than anything. They didn't want a paper cutout of somebody else. And so leadership really is all about what you bring that is different and applicable to the issues of the day. And so I was really dead wrong about that. And so, I'm now a 3-time president. I keep saying no, but I think that's what it is. Fundamentally, I've always spoken my mind. It's gotten me into trouble sometimes, but it doesn't matter to me, because if I can't do that, I can't be who I am. I'm very lucky to have grown up in Texas, because we are so divided today, in this country. And one of the things growing up in Texas that I learned to do, and I don't know if that's Southern or if it's more Texas, I learned to talk to people of all opinions without backing down, but still respecting a difference of opinion, and working with people of all persuasions. And that really, that served me well, because although I was outspoken, I never presumed that I was better or wiser than anybody else. I just knew from my experience and from my knowledge what I believed, and I was never afraid to say what that was. And so I think I want my students to walk through the world not being afraid to reveal who they are, not being afraid. I had a very unfortunate conversation with a gentleman when I was on the board of Goldman Sachs, who said something that was very memorable and disturbing to me, and that is, he's a very tall, handsome man, black man. And he was asking for advice about how to advance within the Goldman Sachs culture. And he told me that whenever he went in to meet with a partner at Goldman Sachs, being tall and being so big, he would deliberately shrink himself as much as he could so that he would not intimidate anybody. That's the kind of thing that many of us do. We shrink ourselves in order to conform to some image that we presume to be the image that people want to see. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because You know, a lot of our students now, after COVID, are having great difficulties. A part of the reason I think that they're having great difficulties is because they don't know which way to go. They've been through a period of disruption. They've been through a period of great challenge, and they are just casting about, trying to think about, what am I to be? Where am I to go? And sometimes, you know, when they come to me with this, all I want to do, I just want to put my arms around them and give them a hug. I hug a lot, but I'm very mean. So it's balanced out, right? So I hug a lot because I want them to have a sense that whoever they are, they're accepted the way they are, that they don't have to turn themselves inside out, except they need to know how to talk properly, and they need to know how to write, and they need to how to do things properly, but at the heart and soul of who they are, they should respect that. One of the things that I'm talking too long. One of the things that I try to remember, when I was appointed president of Brown, there was a lot of talk about this, you know, black woman, and I was thinking, oh dear, here it is. And so I inquired, well, what was the concern? Well, there were two concerns. One concern was that I was from Texas. And what did that mean? Okay? The second concern was that I was a Baptist. Really, honestly. So this, in the context of the oldest Baptist university in the country, was founded as a Baptist university. So we have gotten to the point where we are trying to figure out how to remove ourselves from our heritage as far as we can in order to be this image of something that is, what, pristine, elite, I don't know, but we go to great pains to do that when the simple thing to do is just be who you are, and accept that as a God-given gift.
Well, I don't know about anybody else in the room, but I definitely feel affirmed as a black woman.
Okay, well, good.
I will stand up with my back straight
Okay.
and be my true self,
There you are. And your students, too.
and my students too. I am interested in knowing, and I am sure we all are, what is keeping you up at night?
Nothing, I'm too tired. But
Received.
no, what keeps me up at night, it doesn't really keep me up at night, but, you know, I worry a lot about the future. When I was a kid, you know, I was so hopeful and very idealistic, and I knew I was born at a difficult time. But the way I went about my life and learning was, yeah, that may be the way things are, but I know what to do. I can do better. So when I was 17, I got a Worthing Scholarship here in Houston, and I asked them for permission to use part of my scholarship to go off to Mexico. So I went off to Mexico one summer to live with a Mexican family and to study Spanish. That was my effort to announce the kind of person I wanted to be, to go through the world, meeting people, valuing people on the basis of who they are. And yet I think we're at a moment, again, in the country where we're in a bit of danger in terms of what the future might hold. And I cannot believe it. I mean, I cannot believe that 60 years ago, we were there and we were finding our way to a better place. And now we're letting that go to some extent, and we must not do that. So if there's anything that keeps me awake, it's what can we do every day to make the union hold, okay? And to make people feel respected and valued, because we know what that other side looks like. I know what it looked like, because I grew up that way. And so that's what I commit myself to doing wherever I can, is to be a voice of sanity when it comes to thinking about who we are as a country and what we need to be, because these children cannot believe they are growing up into a world like the one they're seeing on television.
And my last question for the evening. If you could leave us with one action item today, what would you ask of each of us to make Houston an even better place for the next generation?
I don't believe so much in dictates for everybody, because people are different and are called properly to do different things. But here's what I'd say. Every day that you get up, you have to ask yourself what you're doing that contributes to the benefit of society. And that has to be something real, not something imagined, not something that you can do at a distance. And so it may be, I do this all. My niece is with me, and she'll tell you. Sometimes, if I'm in a restaurant or if I'm in a store, and I see somebody who doesn't have money, I'll pay their bill. If I see a young person who can't make it, I'll help them out. I was one day at the the tax office, and there was an elderly lady there who was there because she got a tax bill, and she was afraid that they were going to move her out of her house, and I paid her tax bill. I don't care what it is. You have to have a commitment to making this place better. That's all. And I don't care what it is. Just do something. That's enough preaching. Thank you so much. It's been fun
Thank
talking
you
to you.
so much for your time, for dropping so many nuggets, for educators, for women, for people of color, for those in the audience from different paths, but who can support us in making real change that we need to see today. Having the Fireside Chat has been a true pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for believing and being a champion for education for big and little KIPPsters.
My pleasure.
Dr. Ruth Simmons, everyone.